Good morning, everyone, and thank you for attending this BEAD work webinar. My name is Leo Garcia, and I am the Director of Florida Commerce's Office of Broadband in the Division of Community Development. I'm joined today by Sostrom, our Chief of Broadband Initiatives. Our office is excited to present you this information regarding our BEAD program and how we are planning to partner with Florida's local workforce development boards, community action agencies, and nonprofit organizations to help Florida build out our broadband in advance of BEAD infrastructure and expansion. A couple housekeeping items. If you have any questions, please type them into the chat feature and we will address all at the end of the presentation. This presentation will be recorded, have the recording slide deck posted within the next 2 business days. To start off, I will give a brief overview of the Office of Broadband. The office was created by the legislature in 2020 to encourage the use of broadband internet throughout the state, distribute grant funds to build new broadband infrastructure to unserved areas, and promote adoption and use of broadband in unserved, underserved, and rural areas of Florida. The vision of the office is to foster a connected economy that supports workforce and community development, education opportunities, resiliency, and telemedicine by increasing broadband availability, accessibility, and adoption. To date, the office has awarded more than $700 million in funding for new infrastructure, multi-purpose community facility upgrades, and digital device programs. Florida small cities and rural communities have received 85% of broadband infrastructure grants. These grants ensure Floridians across the state have reliable internet access to support workforce, education, and health monitoring opportunities. Additionally, our office values community engagement. That's why we have local technology planning teams in all 67 counties in Florida. We will discuss further about our LTPTs and how they can be utilized during the application process. BEAD is a federal program through the Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act for broadband infrastructure, as well as digital adoption and use activities, workforce development, and economic development. The office has been allocated more than $1.1 billion in funding through the BEAD program to serve all remaining unserved and underserved locations in Florida. This will also be the source of funding for the office's future workforce development and cybersecurity training efforts. Its goals for the program are to boost Florida's economic competitiveness through strategic broadband deployment, expand access to reliable broadband through sustainable adoption and resilience, and equip Floridians with the resources and skills to meaningfully use the internet and digital devices. The Office of Broadband has been working on its initial proposals for BEAD funds, which detail Florida's spending plan for the BEAD dollars. Those proposals were approved by the federal government in fall of 2024, giving Florida the green light to move forward with its BEAD program. As we have discussed, Florida's BEAD program will fund both infrastructure deployment and non-deployment programming. The non-deployment program will fund Florida's workforce efforts, which is subject of today's webinar. We are partnering with Broadband Nation for outreach and marketing efforts on our broadband workforce development program. Broadband Nation's Florida-specific webpage will serve as a hub for job seekers to get information about a career in broadband and learn about specific jobs and career pathways, including training opportunities. Now we'll turn it over to Jacob to give an overview of the BEAD workforce program.
Thank you, Leo. The BEAD non-deployment plan has $110 million in funding toward a comprehensive broadband workforce development program. The office has been in active conversation with private industry, academia, and other state government partners to develop a curriculum framework for deployment personnel before the release of BEAD deployment funding. The BEAD Workforce Development Program will also focus on apprenticeship and pre-apprenticeship programs for Florida's broadband workforce. In preparation for the launch of this program, our office has partnered with Florida Department of Education, CareerSource Florida, and the Reimagining Education and Career Help Office, also known as REACH, to develop a well-rounded program for our applicants. The office is currently in collaboration with multiple industry leaders, which include educational institutions, local workforce development boards, community action agencies, nonprofits, and the private sector to ensure any curricula and training programs developed have their needs in mind, allowing for a greater degree of confidence for job seekers and employers. The total funding available for this application window will be $110 million and will have a period of performance of 3 years. The application window will open on Monday, June 9th, 2025, and will close on Thursday, July 24th, 2025. Our office will be holding office hours for technical assistance with applications starting on May 27th, 2025. We encourage our applicants to utilize that time prior to the application opening to ask any questions they may have and register for the application cycle. There will be no minimum or maximum award limits. However, requests must be justifiable and directly related to broadband workforce development. There will be no required match for the grant. Supplying private funding or other leverage will lead to higher scoring applications. New training programs will be eligible for funding under the program, as well as expanding capacity for existing offerings. If standing up a new program, please specify the date new courses would begin. Any entity that wishes to apply for a grant must first pre-register on the Office of Broadband's pre-registration portal. Successful pre-registration will create an account for your organization that will be used for funding applications grant windows officially open. Each organization will have only one account, but multiple users from your organization can be added to that account. Information from your pre-registration will pre-populate into your grant application, simplifying the grant application process once the window opens. We encourage organizations to pre-register in the portal as soon as possible so the office can assist with any technical issues that may arise. This slide shows a list of the entities that are for funding under the program, including state and technical colleges, K-12 institutions, private education facilities, nonprofits, local workforce development boards, and community action agencies. Additionally, partnerships between any of the entities listed are eligible for funding as well. Our office has a separate partnership with CareerSource for broadband apprenticeship programming, so please remember to reach out to your local CareerSource board about the status of their broadband workforce activities. This slide shows a list of activities eligible for funding under the program. As you can see, there are a wide breadth of activities that are eligible. The overall goal is to ensure that educational institutions have all of the resources they need to either stand up a new program or build capacity for existing programs. If you have any suggestions of potential activities that we have not listed, please do not hesitate to reach out to our Office of Broadband staff for clarification. To that end, the Office of Broadband can provide funding for all manner of broadband-related educational activities, from student tuition to new training equipment, as well as wraparound services such as student housing, transportation, childcare, and other supportive services. Now, I will pass it back over to Leo to expand upon the variety of different careers within the broadband industry.
Thank you, Jacob. On this slide, we have listed broadband careers and accompanying standard occupational classifications, also known as SOC codes, that will be eligible for funding under the program. Through this grant program, we are prioritizing programs that train the occupations highlighted in green. However, we recognize that there are many other relevant jobs related directly or indirectly to broadband and want to emphasize that training programs for these jobs will also be eligible for funding. There are many existing registered apprenticeship programs in Florida and nationally that correspond to these codes, all of which will be eligible for funding under the program. The primary goal of the program is to train and hire broadband infrastructure deployment personnel to ensure Florida has sufficient capacity to complete BEAD infrastructure build-out in a timely and efficient manner. Specifically, we're looking for telecommunication technicians, installers, repairers, and fiber splicers. There will be many different types of personnel utilized for the infrastructure rollout, and all will be eligible for training funding under the program, provided that the skills they learn can directly lead to a broadband job upon program completion. We're keeping in mind that the job classifications are not necessarily standardized across programs or databases, so we are flexible as long as it relates to broadband infrastructure deployment. The office will fund BEAD projects using both fiber optic and wireless technology, so training for technicians of both of those technology types will be eligible under the program. An example of an acceptable training program would be the telecommunications and fiber optic technician curriculum framework developed by Miami-Dade College and MasTech and recently approved by the Florida Board of Education. As mentioned previously, our office is open to funding other broadband-related training programs and curricula that teach industry-approved skills and can lead directly to employment upon program completion. A successful application should speak to all aspects of the training program, including the educational component, wraparound services, facilities and training equipment, and job placement upon completion. Applicants will be asked to speak to the partners they plan to work with to provide the services they won't be providing firsthand. Applicants will also be scored based on the demonstrated need for the project, including the level of economic impact the project will bring and the populations to be targeted by the training program. As stated previously, there is no cap on individual award size. However, applicants will have to submit a detailed budget with justifiable expenditures over the course of the 3-year period of performance. As mentioned before, our office will be holding office hours for technical assistance purposes on Tuesdays and Thursdays, starting on May 27, 2025. Office hours will be held from 10:30 a.m. to 11:30 a.m. on Tuesdays and from 2 p.m. to 3 p.m. on Thursdays. A link will be posted to the Office of Broadband's website for applicants to utilize and participate in the office hours. We encourage our applicants to utilize this time to meet with our grant managers to answer any questions you may have about the application. Additionally, we would like to note that during the application curing process, we may send a request for information. The applicant will have 3 business days to submit the requested information. Now, I will pass it back to Jacob to discuss the roles of the local workforce development boards, community action agencies, and nonprofit organizations for this program.
Thank you, Leo. The office won't prescriptively specify the role of nonprofits, local workforce boards, or community action agencies in a successful application. Rather, that will be up to the applicant. While we realize that workforce boards, nonprofits, community action agencies, and educational institutions have traditional roles they play in the workforce space, we also recognize that different local contexts call for different solutions, and we don't want to box applicants into one specific model. A successful application will speak to these specific components: instruction, job placement, and wraparound services. Ultimately, partnerships will be vital since individual applicants may be unable to provide all necessary services by themselves. The dynamic of these partnerships and roles of each partner will be determined by the applicants and should consider the specific context and capacity of each partner organization to handle each component of the application. Any of the organizations listed are eligible to be a primary applicant under the program. Keep in mind that the primary applicant will be the fiscal agent and be responsible for distributing funds to partners and overseeing their activities. A successful application will address the implementation of the listed program elements, and how applicants choose to delineate roles and responsibilities will be at their discretion. As always, Florida Commerce is committed to community engagement. We recognize that strong local partnerships are the backbone of our. First, we want to remind you to reach out to the local technology planning team in your area. There is one team in each county, and the grant application will have a section regarding participation with the local teams, as well as the opportunity for the team to submit a letter of support on behalf of your project. Please reach out to the office if you need contact information for your local technology planning team leader. Many teams meet quarterly or only as needed. So please reach out as soon as possible to ensure the team has ample time to review your project. Partnerships are eligible for funding under this grant. For example, a local workforce development board could partner with a nonprofit to fund wraparound services to provide support for students attending classes at a state or technical college. Additionally, projects should emphasize partnerships and relationships with employers so that prospective students can be confident they will find gainful employment after completing the program. Applications should also define the specific areas and populations they will seek to serve with grant funding. There are many overlapping and interlocking educational institutions and other entities in a given area, so please make sure you speak specifically to the area you intend to serve. Subgrantees will have to adhere to the rules and regulations laid out in the Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act. Additionally, all subgrantees will be subject to 2 CFR 200 uniform administrative requirements as amended. Please familiarize yourself with these regulations in order to ensure compliance. In addition to federal regulatory requirements, there are also subgrantee reporting requirements. These include submittal of quarterly reports to Florida Commerce that include but are not limited to effectiveness of the use of funds provided, type of project carried out using subgrant, and duration of the subgrant. Additional reporting requirement details can be found within Section 7, Paragraph E, Subparagraph 2 of the BEAD NOFO, or Notice of Funding Opportunity. Now, I will pass it back to Leo to take us through any questions you may have.
Thanks, Jacob. Now we will take a brief break to gather questions we have received thus far. As a reminder, if you have questions, please type them into the chat feature and we will address any questions received. If your questions doesn't get addressed, please email them to broadband@commerce.fl.gov. We'll take a brief moment to gather all the questions. We'll be back shortly. All right, welcome back. We did receive a few questions and we'll run through them and provide some responses. First question received is, how can we have access to review the Miami-Dade proposal?
So we have a copy of that was approved by the Board of Education. We will make sure to send that out after the presentation is over.
Next question, is this the grant schools district should apply for? And is there a printed NOFO?
So there's no printed NOFO, and this is the pot of funds that school districts should apply for. Today's webinar is more on the Workforce Board and Nonprofit and Community Action Agency side. We'll have a webinar tomorrow that will deal more with the educational institutions, but all of those entities will be drawing from the same pot of funds. So it is the grant, yes, that school districts will apply for.
Could you please review the role of the LTPTs and requirement in an application?
So our local technology planning teams, as we talked about, is sort of how we handle our community engagement through the Office of Broadband. We've created a team in each county. We keep track of the team members and team leads. So if you need assistance in that regard, please reach out. The role of the team is to essentially review the application. They have the ability to write a letter of support on your behalf, and then the application will ask, sort of what your engagement level is, how the conversations went with the team, and things like that. So essentially, we've written this into past applications, and what we've seen is grant applicants will meet with their local team, sort of discuss the application, discuss, their proposal. If the team has feedback, they'll have the opportunity to provide that, and you guys can incorporate it or not. And then at the end of the day, they'll have the option to write you a letter of support, which you would then submit with your application.
Thank you for that, Jacob. I understand this is federal funds. Is the grant managed by a state or federal entity?
So you're correct, it is federal funds. The grant will be managed by a state entity, the Department of Commerce.
Where is the main office, and would you consider appointments via remote meeting?
Our main office is in Tallahassee. And yes, we can do remote meeting, and the office hours will be virtual as well.
Can a copy of today's presentation be emailed to me?
Yes, we will make sure everyone gets a copy of the presentation, and a recording will go up on our website shortly after.
Follow-up question. Can we get a copy of the CAAs in the state, or is there a listing online? I believe we can work with our team, the Bureau of Economic Self-Sufficiency, to provide that list for us, and we'll post or at least share the link to where those are listed. Follow-up question. Do a nonprofit who wants to partner with the local workforce board or Career Source Florida go directly to the board to develop a partnership relationship?
Yes. So, like we talked about, the way that you handle the application is up to you. But yes, going to the local board and then establishing that partnership and then speaking to the way the partnership would work in the application, that would be something we would ask of an applicant.
We cover multiple counties. It appears there is a short period of time to get letters of support from all local teams. How would it be viewed if we had letters from the majority, but not all? Some rural teams may not be able to meet or review as quickly.
Yeah, so we understand that, and we're flexible. A lot of our applicants submit letters of support from other related entities or elected officials or something like that. If you can speak to the effort that you gave, and if you, for example, reached out to all the teams, you had, I don't know, let's say 3 of your 4 counties were able to meet and review and one couldn't get it done in time. If you could speak to that in your application, that's something that we would take into account. And like I said, there are other avenues for demonstrating community support that you could show as well if you could not get the LTPT letter of support specifically.
And one thing to add to supplement that is our team here in the office is in constant communication with the LTPTs throughout the state. We do hold a monthly call with each of them and have informed them of this need that will be coming in here in the near future. So they are aware that counties, entities, whatever it may be, will be reaching out to them for those letters of support and to provide them information regarding the project that you all will be submitting. So they are aware. So hopefully we can get those communications and you guys can partner as soon as possible. We can support, as Jacob mentioned, as best we can to get that effort going. We did receive another question. When would grant awards be announced?
So we don't have a specific date for the announcement. We would score all the applications and then make that announcement. Every application would be scored multiple times, and then scores are averaged and ranked. So it can take a little bit of time for us to work through that process. But like I said, we don't have a specific date that we can give you for announcements for that.
And then Deborah, we did see that you asked regarding the attendees list. If you'd like, you can just reach out to us directly and we can talk about that, see what we can provide you with. So you can email me or Jacob or the broadband email, and we will talk through it. Will there be more funding next year or no, since this is a 3-year program?
So essentially the way that it'll work is we have 110 million total in funding, and that will go towards this competitive grant as well as the apprenticeship and pre-apprenticeship program that we're handling through the local workforce boards. I'll tell you, BEAD in total has a 5-year period of performance for us, and this is 3 years. And so I think we are anticipating, depending on the amount of funding that will be left over, opening it up a little bit down the road to kind of assess the need, sort of assess our progress, see what's next, and then kind of determine whether or not we will, sort of change course in terms of careers that we're looking to train or stuff like that. So funding next year, no. I think potentially 2 or 3 years down the road, like I said, depending on the amount of requests we get, that will be an option that we are looking at. But like I said, it depends on how much is requested in this initial round.
All right. Don't have any further questions. I would like to thank you all for your engagement and attendance in this presentation. We are looking forward to receiving your applications for the BEAD Workforce Development Program and to keep moving forward in our vision to expand broadband in the state of Florida, engage with all of our partners, and advance a connected economy. If you have any other questions, please feel free to contact us at broadband@commerce.fl.gov. Thanks again.